Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new here. My name is Cody the Writer, and today we are talking about rest. Now, this week was an extremely busy week for me. We had an event that I coordinated. We had our end of the year graduation for our residents. And if you don't know, I work for a medical university, and I am the program coordinator for neurology, and I am basically the go-to person for 21 different residents of neurology, all in different years. Well, this past week we had our graduation for our neurologists that are going out into the world and moving on to bigger and better things, and so that was really what took a lot of my mental bandwidth this week. Monday through Wednesday, I was hardcore, finishing up the planning. Everything was planned, but finalizing everything and really making sure that everything was put together and ready to go for Thursday. Thursday was the actual graduation. I worked 14 hours that day. I worked from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. And obviously I was exhausted on Friday. Last night we went to go see some friends in Legally Blonde. I'll put a picture here of us at the show last night. It was absolutely wonderful, cute, and amazing. And here we are. It is Sunday, June 16th. Tomorrow is another Monday, and we just gotta keep pushing forward, okay? Now, obviously, with having a lot on my plate at work, I could feel myself whenever I was at home feeling guilty that I wasn't continuing to be productive. And because of that, I could feel myself getting close to a burnout phase. I could feel myself kind of declining and getting into that burnout area. I made the conscious decision to productively rest this week, and it actually helped my writing. And we'll talk about how it helped my writing at a later part of this video. Now you're probably thinking, Cody, how can you rest productively? Well, I'm gonna tell you what. We as writers, we have what has been referred to as a creative well. And I like to think of this well in ways that make me happy, and so I think of M&Ms. Now, you're probably like, M&Ms, what are you talking about? Let's say at the beginning of the week, I have 70 M&Ms, and each day of the week requires me to spend 10 of those M&Ms, okay? So you think, 70 and I need 10 a day, I'm on budget, we're great. And there are some weeks where each day that you spend that 10 M&Ms, you come home, you rest, you get those 10 back. So you're still back up at 70, and you're just constantly going through, and you're at an even state. You're not gaining M&Ms, you're not losing M&Ms, you're breaking even every week. This past week for me, I feel like every day I was spending 10 M&Ms, but I was only getting half of those back. And so as the week progressed, that number of M&Ms was slowly dwindling down, right? And so I needed to make the effort to allow myself to not spend as many M&Ms, to get some more back, start to kind of stockpile, start to refill that well. And I feel like starting this next week, even though it is also going to be quite a busy week, I'm feeling motivated to be really productive this week. And I know that is because I took the time to rest this past week. And so we're going to talk about what I did this past week in order to refill that creative well. So I'm going to I did sort of one thing in 3 different media categories. I did one thing with like TV, I did one thing with reading, and I did one thing with video games. And so I'm going to share all those things with you, starting with the TV show that I watched. So we started this show actually last weekend. We were at my parents', but it's called Fool Me Once, and it is a show that's on Netflix, and it is a psychological thriller kind of situation. You're following 2 main POVs. You have the main character whose husband has been killed, and her sister has also been killed, and we don't know why they were killed, and we don't know who did it, who did what. And then there's this main detective who has his own story, so we kind of get their POV. He is the detective on the case who is, trying to figure out who killed these people. And just as we go through the show, you get little flashbacks of things that have gone through, like the female main character. She was in the army, and we see some flashbacks of her. She has like PTSD of things that happened while she was in the army, and those are kind of playing a role in what's happening today. And then there's this whole thing where she has this like baby cam that looks like a picture frame, and she sees her husband, her dead husband, on the nanny cam, and is like, that's can't be right. So it's one of those things where it's like, the whole time you're wondering, did she actually see her husband? Is he really alive? Or is he not really there and she is just making it all up in her head? It plays a lot with the unreliable narrator situation, which I really enjoyed. And overall, by the end of it, I was like, wow, I would have never guessed. But really enjoyed that. Now, as far as reading, this week was the release date of The Housemaid is Watching, and I love me some Frida McFadden. I eat all of her stories up, and this one was absolutely no different. The first two Housemaid books were absolutely phenomenal. I loved them, and so I was very excited for this third installment, and after reading it, I believe it was definitely the final installment. So I was actually just sitting one day, and I was reading it, and I was really enjoying it, and something that I did differently with this is that I tried, I'm not an audiobook girly, but this week I was like, I had a lot of driving around to do because I had to, go to venues and I had to pick up things for the graduation. So I had a lot of time spent in my car. And I was like, gosh, I really want to read this book some more. So I decided to download Audible. I've never really been into audiobooks, but overall I really enjoyed it. And I got to spend a lot of time in my car listening to the book. And the reason that I decided to read this book is because you saw in my last vlog that I am switching up POVs to have a first person POV. And so I picked up this book because it is a first-person psychological thriller POV situation. I learned so much from it, and I was able to pick up a lot of things that I would be able to play with as I am about to start rewriting these chapters in this new POV. I'm going to share with you some of the things that I picked up from that. So first of all, you can play with the fact that you only know what the person you're writing from knows. So you can lie to them. You can use their thoughts to lie to the reader because they can make an assumption about something that is absolutely not true, but you as the reader, you're following their POV, so you're, like along the ride with them. You're like, oh yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that person could have done this thing. Maybe that person could have planted this evidence here. Maybe that person could have killed this person and been there at this time. You just never know. And so you can really play around with that, really manipulate the truth to further steer your readers off the path that you really want them to be on because, like the killer's over here, but I want you looking over here. So reading this book not only helped me solidify the things that I can do in my new POV and really the room I have to kind of play around, and that kind of just reinvigorated my inspiration and my excitement for this story. I think I'm coming to realize that drafting and brainstorming is like my favorite part of the writing process. Reading her book really got me back into that fun, playful area of getting to, brainstorm a new way to do this, and maybe because we're looking at his point of view, I can add this red herring here and do all these other kind of things. So that's really fun. Other than that, I was actually sitting and reading. I think I was about halfway through the book, and as you guys know from another previous vlog, we all suffer from shiny new idea syndrome. So when I get a new idea, I like to write like a synopsis of it, and that way whenever I am done with what I'm working on currently, I can go back and I can have like an extremely vague idea of the story that I want to tell and a rough idea of the characters that are going to be involved. They don't have names. It's just mostly like, this story involves a dad and a son. This is kind of what happens. They do this thing and they move here, blah, 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 blah. So I have a very rough idea, and I know kind of like the end. I have like a little tagline at the end of like kind of what I want to say with that story. And that's what I do. In the midst of reading this book, I had a spark of inspiration because I was listening to the audiobook, and hello, ADHD queen. Obviously, as I was reading it, my mind kind of started to just wander off and start thinking about something, and I started thinking about one of the stories that I have a synopsis for. When I tell you a wave, a tsunami, if you will, of inspiration just hit me for that story, I stopped the audiobook immediately, opened up my phone, and I opened it up to Google Docs. I pulled up that little paragraph that I had, and I spent a solid hour, no breaks, just brain dumping under that synopsis of characters and tropes and all these things that I want to do, these events. I figured out where I wanted to start that story. I figured out how it's going to end. I figured out how the killer ends up getting inside the house and all these things that line up, and this things about the family that I can let the reader know that would immediately suck in their interest. Start a story with a character that talks about how they move houses once a year. Immediately you're like, that's weird, why? Then I get to just go from that jumping point and just play off on this whole story. Reading definitely, it just brought up inspiration, and I probably would not have had that inspiration hit had I not been doing something to refill the well. The last thing that I did in order to refill my well, this one doesn't necessarily have anything to do with writing, but it's still consuming a story. I've been playing the Final Fantasy VII remake, the first one. There's a whole second chapter of the Final Fantasy VII thing that's going on. I have not played that one yet, but my fiance, he is obsessed with that game, and so he's been having me play it, and I've been enjoying it. It's been a really fun story. We follow, Cloud, he's just a broody, sad boy who has just found this group of people that hired him. Their stories get intertwined and they start to kind of become their own little found family, and they go on these missions, and it's just fun. It's something that I can use to turn my brain off and just enjoy. All that to say, if you are feeling creatively burnt out, if you feel like that well is getting low, take some time, do some things that you enjoy that will also help to inspire those thoughts that get you excited about writing, get you excited about your story, that challenge you to figure out new ways to write that scene that you've been stuck on for 2 weeks. At the end of the day, you'll be happier you rested, and your writing will be better for it. If you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to support this channel and be notified every time I upload a video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. We have officially hit 200 subscribers, which is wild to me. There's 200 of you out there in the world that care that I am writing a book and that you want to just come along for the ride, and I am so appreciative. I'm so thankful. And if you're one of those 200 that are subscribed to this channel, this is for you. Mwah. With all that out of the way, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!